Hello, everyone, and welcome to She Runs on AI. I am so excited to welcome my good friend and ex colleague, Crystyl Swanson, to our episode today. Crystyl,
Hi.
hello. How are you
Hello,
today?
I'm so excited to join you two lovely ladies.
Yes,
Really
we
excited
are.
to have you here.
Yes. This is going to be a great conversation. Crystyl, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but I am just so excited to share a microphone with a former professional actress.
Oh,
So let's
oh
start
goodness, oh goodness.
there.
Yeah, I'll
Tell
do
me.
a quick intro. So, Crystyl Swanson, I live in Houston, and I guess the most important things you need to know about me is I'm a mom. I am a total geek for learning and really anything technological or AI in this example. And I've been in strategy slash industry expertise for a long time, and I love human behavior. So that's the key component you need to know about me. But I do a lot of different things, which I think you mentioned the actress thing. So
Mhm.
I do that on the side. I guess the interesting part of my background is my undergraduate degree is musical theater. So
Mm.
I have my undergraduate in musical theater and then my master's in business. And so I do just try to pursue anything I can related to performance on the back end when I have a moment, which is not very many free at this time. So
I love that. I love that. And, human behavior, theater, and also commercial strategies. I mean, if you combine those three together, are you just going to conquer the world?
that's what
I mean,
I'm
in
hoping.
motherhood and
And
motherhood,
Yes,
like the
right.
skill that all of those things require, that's impressive.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it
no,
takes.
it's funny. I didn't end up, wanting children till a lot later in life. So I'm sort of an older mom in that, geriatric world and even older than they probably would consider. They probably need another name for my bracket. But either way, it's just interesting because it's just a different phase of life. And also just the way I approach things and the way I think about things is different. So,
I think we need to normalize pregnancy at 35. Okay. The fact that they call it geriatric pregnancy because you're 35, it's just something is wrong there. I just don't get it.
yeah,
I don't
I
agree with it.
agree. I
Yeah.
had her at 42, so I'm 45 now, and yeah, it's crazy. And I had no trouble with the pregnancy. I hadn't,
Mhm.
no medical issues, but I do understand why they might say, "Hey, we just need to watch because there could be additional risks based on
Sure.
statistical data." But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Let's
was
find
difficult
another
to hear
name.
geriatric.
Let's
Whenever
find another name, right? You are a commercial leader. So let's just rebrand this.
That's
All
right.
right. So here we are to talk more about AI. So I want to dive in right away because Crystyl and I were catching up recently, and she just shared with me like the perfect example on why Adriana and I built She Runs on AI, which was to inspire women and people to get more savvy on AI, get curious and start using it. So Crystyl, I'm gonna let you tell the audience what you did, but she basically identified a problem in her day-to-day life and she decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and fix it. She didn't ask for permission, she didn't ask corporate world to approve what she was going to do. She did it on the side and she just went ahead and created her own app. Crystyl, what is that?
Yeah, so, I've been looking to figure out a way outside of LinkedIn to really showcase, different projects that I've done or my professional progression, if you will, as well as references. And what I noticed on LinkedIn, I have a couple of references. They're super old. And I was like, okay, so do I go down the route of just finding and putting in those references and, having those people be it, which I feel like isn't as relevant because those reviews are so old. Plus, they're not very specific, like related to the different skills or the different categories that I work in. And so I was like, you know what? I looked across the internet, searched for tools. I didn't like anything available. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to build it. So I basically just put together what I thought it might look like in my head, right? And then I started to work with AI to try and build it. Like, what do I need to do? What are the steps I need to take? Because it's really as simple as that. And I'm very process oriented. So that is the way that I process things. Um, And so basically, I created this landing page where I gathered references from people. And essentially, I have an approval method on the back end. It's a static page, but it updates dynamically. So every time someone puts in a review, it also tells the individuals like where they've worked with me. For example, like commercial strategy or maybe in events, maybe it was campaigning, right? So it's very specific, and then it highlights. I actually created an AI generated review, like basically an executive summary that takes the information that I was reviewed on and then gives whoever's reading it, hey, based on X number of reviews, here's what we understand of Crystyl. So it's really just a way. It was a way for me to gather my own experience and understand, like, how am I coming across to others in the workplace, as well as something I could put forward in a professional situation where I might need to showcase different skills that go beyond a resume, because I think that's the difficulty, especially in the workplace that we live today, is like, beyond your resume, it's just a bunch of words on a paper. But what is it actually like to work with this person, or like where are the expertise that this person has, what do they live? So that's what I wanted to capture. And I'm working on a weighting system as well, like to figure out how we manage more recent reviews versus less recent reviews, right? So it's just kind of, I started it and I was like, this makes sense, I need it for me, and here we go. So I just built it.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And, you're already inspiring me to try other things. And actually, just after this, I'll go check it out because this is so, so cool. And as you said, it's solving a problem for you. And I'm pretty sure that it will resonate with others. So we'll make sure that we share it. But Crystyl, I'm very curious as to, I mean, you are a curious person. You
Yes.
saw a problem, but there are many different paths that you could have taken to build this. Can you talk a little bit more about what you did and why you chose that path?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think speed was part of it. I wanted to be able to stand it up quickly and ensure that I had essentially a landing page that I could share. So, I thought the quickest path to getting that done was engaging with AI. And the other reason that I really like AI, and of course, there's a bunch of different paths you can take, right? You can take like Codex, which is going to just code it for you, it takes over your computer. I don't I don't use it as much, partly because I'm a person who wants to learn it. So I want to learn why, and I want to do the steps myself so that I can trial and error. And so I used, in my this case, I used ChatGPT and just worked through what I wanted to see, all the iterations, what I needed to do to build, what are the steps. And so that's why I did it. It was more for the speed by which I wanted to execute it. And also I didn't want to pay anything for it. Like I want to just have this and not have ever never ending annuity over my head for a reference page, right?
I love that. And can I ask you, at what time of the day did you find actual space to do this with a 6-year-old daughter?
Once the baby goes to sleep, these are the moments. It's either
Wow.
that or I have an obsession with Real Housewives. I know it's silly, but I do watch those
Maybe
shows.
both. Maybe you're
Yeah,
watching Real Housewife and you were like
and yeah,
coding.
it's gonna, you know what? It's gonna inform a problem that needs to be solved, and I can create an app.
That
So,
is
for those who are listening and are less tech savvy, I would just say check out Lovable. It's a great tool out there that you can actually use to create an app for that idea that you have in your mind without necessarily having to learn how to code. But Crystyl, we get it. You are an overachiever. You like the harder path, which I also love, and I love to for you to be inspiring people listening today. So, Krista, let me ask you this. Have you ever been concerned about the information that you put on an AI model, or what are your boundaries when it comes to, here you are creating an app for references?
Mhm.
What are your boundaries when it comes to sharing data with AI models?
Yeah, so I mean, I just make sure it's not something that's a personal identifier, right? I'm not going to be sharing my health information within the apps or a large language model, because you never know where that can show up again. I, for me, this was less of a concern, partly because all the information that's in here about me and my professional career is also in LinkedIn. That's a public page, so I'm not concerned about it being shared. And in addition, when I have the person fill out the reference, I get the consent that they can either use their name or not use their name.
Mhm.
And I have another, basically code on the back end that says if it says no, then it will list anonymous. So it's really making sure that you are using it responsibly, because there are times where maybe someone doesn't want their name or title to be associated with review, and that's completely fine. So I think thinking through those pieces at the beginning is important. And the good news is, like, if you don't think of them, you could actually ask the AI agent to think of it for you. So, a lot of the times when I'm working with AI, one of the things I learned really early on was you need to give so much context. And even using, I don't know how many of y'all use the voice to text, but
Mhm.
that actually helps because it's less to type. The AI model will sort of decipher what you're trying to say, and it gets it out more quickly. And so I use that a lot because it helps me inform the context. And in addition, I ask the question, what am I not thinking of? Interview me. Right. And so that helps that tool to really, enable the different pieces that need to be thought about moving forward. So
I'm super curious, and you mentioned voice to text. Are you using it within the like ChatGPT, or are you using another tool?
So I use it within ChatGPT, but there is a tool that I love. It's called Whisper. And it's so good for basically translating what you're trying to say. It doesn't even have to be through AI, but I know I use my phone chat to text a lot because I'm driving, I'm on the run. I don't have time to muscle it out. Plus my thumbs hurt, so I use it a lot, and it really does a great job of adding in the punctuation or hearing the word that I'm trying to say. So that's one tool. And if you're a student, there's a discount on Whisper. I don't sell Whisper, just as a PS, but I'm just letting you know I do think it's a great tool.
What about your app, Crystal? Is that a public app that our audience can actually go and find and start using it?
So it's in development, but I
Okay.
wanted to make sure I launched it responsibly. So there
Yeah.
are some infrastructure pieces on the back end I want to ensure that are in place. So right now you can see my page, and if someone else wants to try it, if you two ladies want to try it, we can build one for you, and you can try it, and I'll manage the back end for now. So, but yeah, I just want to make sure that we are responsible about it. And to your point, if it has personal information, it needs to be secure. So.
That is great. Thank you so
I
much.
mean, Leo, you can enter your reference.
I
You can provide
know.
a reference. You know.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna resend. I'm gonna send the link again, and so I'll expect a reference from you, Leo, and then Adriana. You can say that I'm an amazing AI innovator, and that'll be great.
I love
So,
it.
if that pops up, it won't be suspicious at all.
no pressure. No pressure. Got it.
I love it.
Let's shift gears a little bit because Adriana and I both are mothers to daughters as well, two sons. And when you think of the future, and you look your little 3-year old, and you are here coding a new app that you just created, and you think about what the future holds for your daughter. What are
Mm.
some of those hopes and fears that you could share with us today about the world of AI in 20 years from today?
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's in a lot of ways really scary, but also exciting. So, one of the things I think about is what information is being shared on AI, or even this is, I guess, a mom fear, but I don't like to put photos out of my daughter, and I don't want to put them in AI, especially because I've seen the photos AI can do. They've done it with my professional photos, and they're so real. So I get concerned about putting out photos into AI, like of my daughter and my family, things like that. So for me, I think there's some fears around how it's used. And of course, you hope everyone has good intentions, but we know that that's not the case for everyone. So I think some governance around that could be important moving forward. I think at the speed by which AI is advancing and changing, those governance principles are going to have to be extremely sharp and revisited maybe on a monthly or weekly basis. I think about, look, AI is so smart. AI should be able to actually know what it should and shouldn't be doing. Like maybe there's a world where you're creating something that creates those governance practices or flags things that could be a problem through your actual AI model. I'm not saying I don't believe this exists. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure, these large AI models have some sort of form of governance and flagging these things. I mean, we know just based on some of the models that have been pulled back even, right? Um, but that's one thing that I think from a fear perspective, I want to ensure things are being used appropriately, especially in the way that I want my daughter to grow up, right? Like, I think technology can be a part of the journey and should be. And I do want her to be AI native. I want her to understand and be able to do that if she's interested in it. But the one thing I do worry about as well is not thinking for yourself. And AI is a great tool and can help, in my opinion, enhance maybe some thoughts that you had or some ideas. But the key there is you got to have the context and you have to have that human review because not everything is practical. And in addition, we don't want to take thinking away, right? We don't want to take our ability to think and our ability to solve problems away. And I do wonder how that evolves as AI becomes more of a main stakeholder in everyday use.
I mean, you bring such good points about governance design that, when I think of governance, it's up to, governments, organizations, but as an individual, right? Like
Hmm.
what you were saying, like the fact that you're not sharing photos, right? That is one step that you can take into creating that governance within your family, within your environment. And um, that last point that you mentioned on the expertise, I think that came up, Leo, in our previous conversation from a few days ago, where it's so powerful if you use it within your domain of expertise where you have experience and knowledge. But when you're
Hmm.
trying to use it to become an expert on everything else, when you really don't, you're not a subject matter expert and you stay on the surface, that's definitely a real concern for future generations. So that really
Yeah,
resonates.
and it just like takes away from the authenticity of the
Uh,
person because, I think it's wonderful that all the generations that are coming up, and of course I age myself, right? I've been working over 2 decades, maybe almost three. Huh? So it's like there are experiences and knowledge that you gain from being in the workforce or just being a mom or being in life that you just don't get immediately and you don't have immediately. And I'm not saying there aren't old souls out there that have this knowing, but I think that that comes from life experience and from the actual experience itself. And so it is concerning sometimes when you do have different generations coming up and suddenly they're sort of regurgitating knowledge, but they're not understanding it. There's a
yeah.
big difference between those two things.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for those insights. I think that Adriana and I are aligned in many of the things that you shared. Now, I want to shift gears one more time before we end the episode. But, Crystal, we don't have many actresses in our episodes. So, as a former actress as well, as you know, I have done theater for 2 decades and it's one of my passions. Let's talk about creativity and AI. There has been some heated discussion about what AI is going to do to creative artists, right? And to the art space overall.
Yeah.
So, from an actress to another actress, what do you think? Should we be tiptoeing our feet around AI and theater? I don't know. Particularly, I believe that, theater is just such a powerful experience that AI will never replace that experience, but I'm talking about theater specifically, right? What about, I don't
Yeah.
know, screen art and things like that? What are your two cents?
Yeah, so art is a sacred place for me because to me it is something you are personally creating. I think there is a world where you could envision something. I think this is where the question is going and articulate it well enough to have an AI model, uh, you know, build it or create it, right? And it's similar to what we do with an app. I think the key there would be ownership. And how are you defining my art, right? If I went out and created something in AI based on a prompt and it had this beautiful piece of artwork, and then I said that I drew that or something that wasn't true, that's one thing versus saying, hey, I visualized this, I prompted it well enough, and here's the final result. Those are different ways of bringing that art forward. Where I do think AI will in some ways not touch, let's say theater, is live theater. Aside from back end, right? I mean, you can use it for lighting and all of those pieces, but live theater, you unless there was some way they were channeling some sort of AI bot for an improv moment, which we know is a difficult skill, that's one thing that I think remains authentic. So either you are a performer, you're on stage, or doing that. And I think that actually even extends to presentations, right? A live person presenting in front of an audience. Now, we do know there is a way to have a live presentation through a webinar that is not a real person, and maybe it just knows I talk with my hands and creates me, right? Speaking. But I think the live, actual in person events will at least remain, untouched, aside from, there could be manuscripts or plays that are written or musicals. And in fact, my prediction is there will be a musical on AI eventually, and then there will be a parody on it because it's always hot topics, right? There was an emoji musical, and then, so it's coming. It's not here in the next year, I'll be shocked. But I think that the live piece is going to stay authentic. So I guess the crux of the question is, I believe it's more around how you're positioning what you did. If you did create it with AI, did you disclose that? So
I love that. I love that. And Crystyl, before we close, I would love to hear any hacks. And you already shared, that you're using voice to text. Is there anything else that you feel like women need to know, regardless of where they are in their journey, whether they're starting experimenting or they're more advanced? What could you share
yeah.
with?
So the main hack, I think, is the context piece. You got to give the tool context. It doesn't have it. One thing to be, interestingly note, if you use an AI tool, it can't report the time. It can't report the day unless you tell it to. Okay, so it doesn't record, context in the way that we do from a linear time perspective. So that's just one thing to know, context. The other thing that actually I've just started using it for, like within the last 2 weeks, I am, first of all, I have no time. So I want easy meals. And one thing I started doing was, hey, we have a budget, like we need to stick to, and I want to do a crock pot meal because that's the easiest on me every other day, because we'll do crock pot and then leftovers, crock pot, leftovers. And so you can basically ask for it and then put it within a budget. That's the key that you want to stick in, and then create a grocery list. So that's like something that's a mom hack that I think is probably underutilized. And you don't have to use Crockpot. You could use whatever tool you're most comfortable with. But even just creating that grocery list has been helpful. And then a summary. I actually do a summary of what I have going on that week through AI that automatically lands in my inbox. So basically, it'll look across all our family calendars, my work calendar, and then it can tell me, hey, here's basically what you have going on this week. Because if it's just not on the calendar, it doesn't exist in our world. So that's like two of the, I guess, hacks, and then one of the piece of, hey, you should always put context in.
I love that. And also, crockpots dinner. Yes, please. More of those. I am
I,
definitely
I
on
I
board.
have one. I have one, and I've never used it.
Oh,
So
really?
I know. So this conversation is going to push me to
Yeah, and
finally.
all it is, you just like crock pots are so easy. You just set it and forget it, right? You just measure the
Yes.
ingredients and then it's like 4 hours or whatever the timing is later. It's awesome. So, yeah.
Let let this be your sign, Adriana. She runs on AI with crock pots in the midst, okay?
Who
Yeah,
knew I would leave this conversation not only with ideas of how to continue using AI, but just like using a crock
a
pot.
crock pot, look, these are mom topics.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we cannot thank you enough, Crystyl. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that our audience really is leaving energized and hopeful about the world with AI and getting some of these ideas to their daily lives. If you want to learn more about Crystyl, we're going to leave her contact information down below. Subscribe on our YouTube channel as well as LinkedIn and Instagram. We're here to bring more amazing women like Crystyl to your life so we can all be running on AI. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you,
much.
ladies.